Victoria from Biblio Lifestyle, and you're listening to the Reader's Couch podcast, the show that will help you bridge the gap between living a full and busy life to one where you're reading, learning new things, and having fun. Today on the couch, I'm so excited to welcome author Ivy Fairbanks to talk about her novel Morbidly Yours. Morbidly Yours is an opposites attract romantic dramedy about Callum, a shy Irish mortician who must marry by his 35th birthday in order to inherit his family's business, and Lark, a bubbly Texan widow who moves in next door. Lark has no plans to fall in love, so her and Callum become friends, and she is even helping him to find a suitable partner. But as their friendship deepens, so does their mutual attraction, which ends up challenging all their initial intentions. Readers, you can expect a blend of humor, romance, and self-discovery as these two unlikely companions navigate love's complexities along with their unique circumstances. But before we get into today's episode, pretty please subscribe to the podcast if you haven't already, leave the podcast a 5-star rating, and write me a review if you love the show. So, thanks in advance. And now onto the episode with author Ivy Fairbanks. Hi readers, welcome again to the Reader's Couch. I'm your host, Victoria Wood, and here on the couch with me to talk about Morbidly Yours is Ivy Fairbanks. Hi Ivy, welcome to the Reader's Couch.
Hi Victoria, thanks for having me.
I'm super excited to chat about your book. It's a romance, but it's also about death, and somehow you managed to marry the two together. How are you feeling now that your novel, your debut, Morbidly Yours, is now out there and available for readers? How has this experience been?
Interesting, I guess. Overwhelming in some ways, but very positive overall. This was a book that was self-published last year in July, and then it was republished just in August. So it going out to a wider audience, when I self-published, I didn't expect anybody to be interested in a mortician romance that doesn't involve paranormal aspects. He's a mortician, and then the next one is, oh, he's a vampire? Oh, he's a stalker? Oh, is he actually a twist? Is he a murderer? And I'm like, he's just a guy who embalms people.
That's what I love, though. I really gravitated to the fact that, yeah, he's just a regular guy.
He's a guy. So I really was thinking at that time when I self-published, I was like, you know what? I'm going to write this for me. I'm going to write something that satisfied an itch that I had. I just self-published it with abandon. If a handful of people find their way to this strange book and enjoy it, then I'll have done my job. And I didn't expect it to get any attention. And then it did get attention in the indie world, and then it got acquired, of course. And so it being re-released is very strange because I wrote this in my pajamas. I wrote this just for me, just for funsies. I took it seriously. I wrote it with the intention to publish, but it was very much, this is a heart project. So it is very vulnerable to now be in a wider audience because that was never the intention with it. So
I guess the vibe I'm getting from you is that this is such a surreal experience. And I love that. I love when things happen unexpectedly. They're wonderful things. But of course, it's processing all the feelings and the emotions, but also all the attention that comes with it. But I am happy that it has reached a wider audience because I adored this one. It is so good. Listeners, if you haven't noticed already, this is one of our fall reading guide selections. It's brilliant. Again, it's a romance and there's a mortician and there's death, but he's just a regular guy and I loved it. But I want Ivy to tell you about it herself. So Ivy, share with our listeners what readers can expect in Morbidly Yours. What's your elevator pitch? What can readers look forward to?
Okay. Morbidly Yours is the story of a painfully shy Irish mortician. He finds out he must marry by his 35th birthday in order to inherit his family's undertaking business. This is where the heroine comes in. She is a Texan widow who is on the run from her past. And when she finds out about his dilemma, she decides to help him enter Galway's dating scene to find the one, because he doesn't just want a marriage of convenience. He wants to fall in love and do it for real. So even though she's sworn off love, in the wake of her grief, she decides to help this man find his.
Yes, and we see them getting to know each other. We see even Lark, who felt, I don't want to get married again. This isn't something I want to do. But we see the possibility and we see what they end up doing in the end. And I think I loved following along with her to see where this is going. So it's fair to say, listeners, this is a slow burn, but it's so good. And it's a fresh way to tell, I feel, a romance story, because again, this includes death and it's not supernatural. It's just two regular people coming together. We see Lark helping Callum try to meet someone, the one, so he can get married by his 35th, but we see them getting to know each other. But what I'm curious about is the setting you chose for this novel. Tell us a bit more about where the book is set, why you chose it, and of course, why a mortician?
Oh, so it's set in Galway, Ireland. I am not from there. I've actually never been to Ireland. Not yet. It's high on my list of priorities. But my family hails from there. Galway has always been on my radar. It's considered the cultural heart of Ireland. So I felt like that was a really good environment that very much honors history. But they also have a lot of tech. They have like tech companies. They have actually like animation companies, things like that. The heroine is a professional animator doing animated like children's movies. So it felt like a really good place that sort of represented both of their personalities. I live here in Florida, and originally I had set the story like where I live. It was not working. This is not a Florida man. The more I like learned about the character, I was like hearing his attitude towards death wasn't a very American one. The more I tuned into this character during the writing process, I was like, this guy is not from Florida. He has like very European sensibilities, I feel.
I love that. But our main character, Lark, who I'm cheering for along the way, is Texan. Tell me about that decision.
Yeah. So my husband, born and raised in Texas. So I have been there. So I can claim that. So yeah, I just really wanted to play with an opposites attract in more than one way. We do have an introvert extrovert pairing, a bit of a multicultural clash. She has some trouble with Irish slang. I feel like I would as well, even for how much Irish media I consume. I would still, if you just put me in a room with someone from Cork and close the door and I had no outside help, I'd be fighting for my life. But Texas was fun to integrate because I have, friends from there, my husband from there. So integrating those little things. And from time to time, I get like a reader will send me a DM and they're like, oh, I loved that Whataburger reference. It is just like a burger chain that's like from there. But like Texans are very proud people.
Oh, yeah.
Even when they don't realize it. Like my husband is very proud Texan and he would not call himself such. But he makes sure to mention the grocery store chain from there every time we talk about the grocery store chain where we live. H-E-B is superior. Like, babe, you've been here 20 years.
Come on, get with it.
You gotta let H-E-B go, babe. And then I have readers who are like, oh my God, you mentioned H-E-B. And I'm like, you guys love this. Like that comes from like my husband.
I love that though. That is so cool. So yes, this is like an opposites attract situation. This is also a slow burn. I think when I was really thinking about things from Lark's point of view, it's almost like a second chance at love too.
Oh yeah.
And that was something I felt throughout the story. Let's chat a bit about Lark. She's Texan. She's very fun. She moves to this place, and when she's in her apartment, A package gets mistakenly sent to her place. She gets body bags. I don't even know how I would react if something, and I have received neighbors' packages by accident,
no.
and I have ripped open them by accident. I was like, wait, what? And then I look on the front because I am expecting a package too. So it's so funny.
Yeah. Oh,
But
I
body
would do that
bags,
too. I have something on Amazon on my doorstep every day from some or from not but somewhere. So
yeah.
I also would just grab it and rip it open. She's unpacking from her big move, so she has all these boxes. She's like nervous, so she's chatting up the delivery driver. He mixes up the packages, and she's, what am I looking at?
I know. So wild. But that's how they connect. And it turns out Callum is her neighbor. That's how they meet. He's a local mortician. He's opposite to her. I felt like she was more high strung. He's more low key. But we see them build a friendship. We see they both have internal things that they're dealing with as well. So she had the death of her husband. She has some guilt that she is carrying. And of course, Callum has the same thing. Tell me about deciding to incorporate the fact that these two people have baggage and they're trying to forget what they have going on, and then they end up pursuing new relationships and obviously ending up together.
Yeah. Grief is something that touches everybody. And I really wanted to play with two characters whose reaction to grief is almost polar opposite. With Lark, like she does carry guilt as well as that grief, and it makes that burden even more difficult for her, to the point where she seeks to get away from everybody. She doesn't want reminders of the diner where she used to go with her husband, and the park where they did their scavenger hunt when they got engaged, and these little things that feel like grenades they feel like landmines, I'm sorry, that if I step in the wrong direction anywhere in this town where we live together, I have this memory that's going to go off, and it's so hard for her to move forward through that grief and integrate it in a healthy way, because she's the most conflict avoidant person. This internal conflict, it's so hard for her to get over. And then you have Colum, who has been steeped in other people's grief. He grew up in a house where they hold wakes and they hold that space for the dead and for the bereaved. It's a very human thing for him. And his attitude toward it is very different than hers, where she doesn't want a reminder of that. She doesn't want to talk about it. She doesn't even want to let people know because they see her differently. Whereas with him, that is, his life is defined by the end of other people's lives, and the mark that leaves on the people they leave behind. So I thought that was really interesting thematically to play with, and how Colum is somebody who, I'm not sure if it stayed explicitly in the book. I'm trying to remember if this was something that was edited out or something that's a small detail, but that he prepared like his own grandfather's like body for burial. So that level of intimacy with someone that you love who's passed, whereas Lark couldn't even visit the grave where her husband was buried. Finding these two people and finding a way for them to end up together in a healthy way. Because at first you're like, how is this woman ever going to be in a relationship with a mortician like her? Like this one? And that's the whole thing. More than just she's loud and he's quiet. Okay, how is this woman ever going to live side by side in this environment in a healthy way?
Yes,
That's the
of
journey.
Yeah.
Falling in love and then being like, what do I do with this grief? And I wanted to honor that as well with like her first husband, and not minimizing that relationship was important to me in the writing process. I didn't want to, it's fine, he wasn't the one. Like, don't be so sad, it's fine, moving on. I did want her to still carry a lot of love for him, and that's okay, I think, to have more than one great love in your life.
I really appreciated seeing that, especially in a story that does center on grief and death. I'm curious though, where did the whole idea come from for Morbidly Yours? Because I know you said you self-published this first, then the book got picked up, and now it's out there in the world again for a new and larger audience. But What was the initial idea? I know you had the Irish elements and you were working through it, but why a story about death and grief, but also let's make it a romance?
I think I've always been interested in like morbid history, and I've always been interested in like death care. That was a field that I was interested in for a little while. My mom passed when I was 15, and kind of already had that in my nature before then, wrapping my head around my parent having a terminal illness from like a young age. And I feel like that did something like dark to my brain, probably. Yeah, that would be something interesting to deconstruct one day, but that's probably where it came from. And after she passed, I gained an additional appreciation for people who do death work and for people who create this safe space for grieving and processing this, and somebody who takes on this incredible, it's an honor really to handle the dead,
Yeah.
and give the families that. And I really gained an appreciation for that after experiencing that with my mom. And it was something that I thought that I wanted to do for a while. Emotionally, I felt like I could handle it. I know myself better now than when I was a teenager. In fact, that's not for me. So I ended up on the other end of the spectrum in my professional life. I ended up doing like work in the birth world and not in the death world, personally, professionally. But that darkness that comes with it is something that not everyone can handle, but I have such great respect for the people who can. When I was working on that, a friend of mine had recently become a mortician, and we had been talking through her schooling and everything. And since it was something I had been so interested in, we had bonded before that. And I was just like, yeah, tell me your stories, tell me everything. In not in a gruesome way, but in a respectful way, because it's not something that you can discuss freely with everybody. You don't jump into, oh, what horrible thing did you experience? It was more like, tell me about what your week was like. And she'll say, oh my God, we had the most incredible memorial for this veteran, and their friends did this for them, did this special thing. And it's really interesting to see how people have reacted to her before and after she started that career. And she's the same warm, loving, bubbly person. But here, what do you do? So Colum experiences that within the book of he is this kind, gentle person. He's quiet, but there's that record scratch moment of, wait, what do you do? And the judgment that comes along with that. It makes it hard for him to date. It makes it hard for him to put himself out there, because growing up, hey, you're the funeral director's kid.
Yeah, it can be rough. I can tell you that, because 2 houses down from me, my childhood home, they were funeral directors. So I went to school with those kids, and some children were not very kind. For me, it was opposite, because I thought it was cool. I don't know what that says about me.
Please. I watch My Girl. Be my friend. Just stay away from bees.
I know. You know what? I think, I remember when you mentioned that when you started writing, you realized that this guy could not be American and his view on death is just very different. I think also some things can vary across cultures, because the way my family views death and aging is very different. It's an honor. You want to get older. You want to get to this place for multiple reasons. For one, for me now, I sit in the middle of the table. I'm not at the end. You sit in order of age and seniority in the family. So elders are at the one end and the children are at the children table, or the far end. So you want to move up that way. And then when someone is passing, there's just this reverence around that, especially when you know it's coming. I know for some folk, they have it. It's very sudden. And I had that too within my family, but knowing it's coming and just the way the folks around you handle that, and the professionals as well, it's very intimate. And I don't think people realize just how it can be. I thought about being a mortician, but it didn't last. It was like a 2-year thing. I would go to the funeral home because, again, they live two houses down. So it was easy access for me I guess I didn't realize how much it takes from you. So it's like you're giving and it gives back. It's a give and take situation. I don't even know how to explain it.
Yeah, I'm sure it's incredibly emotionally taxing. It
Yeah.
sounds, for everyone that I've spoken to about it, I've spoke to my friend, her colleagues as well. I had one of my beta readers when I was working on the manuscript. It's a mortician in her day job and an indie writer as well. So I got a lot of feedback from people in the profession. And that was one of the things where I was like, am I really portraying this correctly? Where it shows that emotional toll and that he's an isolated person, and it's really not healthy, especially with this job.
Yeah. So after reading this one, I got really curious. Are we getting a book 2? Because this is a Love in Galway novel. I paid attention to the cover and I was like, okay, does this mean we're getting another book in the same universe?
Yes. So there are 3 coming up for Galway. The second one is between Cielo and Aiden. So is the cousin of the heroine of this book. She's also Texan. She's Mexican American, and she's a medical student who is studying abroad in Galway to finish doctor training. So she is an aspiring oncologist. It is a second chance romance between her and he's like a rising star and, like, I would say indie folk or like folk rock sort of deal. So he's like a rising musician in like the Irish music scene, and he's getting his breakout internationally. And they end up being the best man and maid of honor at a wedding 2 years after their breakup. She's still a little resentful because he got famous singing songs about their relationship, about how much he loves her. And then he left her to work on his music and tour and to get famous. And then he gets famous and she's wonderful. The song of the summer is about me. It's a second chance romance. So it takes place about 3 years after Morbidly Yours.
Okay.
Those characters are coming back. There's a point where these characters steal the hearse. So yeah, I'm working on that right now. And the third book is going to be Saoirse's story. So she's like the florist who pops in as well. So book 3 is going to be hers.
Okay. So we have 2 other books to look forward to. So that's really exciting. So yay. Okay. So I know you've written the book, you have 2 more on the way, but what are you hoping readers might think or feel after they've finished reading Morbidly Yours?
I think it's a very hopeful story. I wrote it very much with the intention of it being uplifting without, I didn't want to give that Hallmark feel, but I definitely like that. I love the lift that you feel at the end of a good, like, sweet romance. And I don't mean closed door, but just a very tender, loving romance where you're really convinced these people are soulmates. Like there's some books where you're just like, oh yeah, these ones are going to make it.
Yeah.
The feeling that you get at the end of one of those is so special. And I hope that I give readers that feeling, that optimism, that feeling of like things clicking into place and you're like, yes, like the epilogue, and you're just like, I hope that the grief in the book was maybe help somebody who is grieving, who feels conflicted about feeling joy again and experiencing that joy, feeling like they deserve good things when someone that they loved isn't there to experience them with them. I think that those messages from readers have meant so much to me when someone says, I'm grieving this loss and I picked up this book, and I'm like, you picked up the book with the graveyard on the cover.
I know, but sometimes it is the remedy you need. And I think this novel does just that. Thank you so much, Ivy, for coming on the show and speaking with me. This has been fun.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for listening to the Reader's Couch podcast. Please subscribe to the show, share it with a friend, and take a few seconds to leave a rating and review. Until next time, stay lounging, stay reading, and whenever you're in doubt, go straight to your local bookstore or library. Thanks again for listening and happy reading.